Assalamualaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, recently, a left-wing activist leaked a document that the Supreme Court is considering via a draft that they did, altering murder, aka abortion rights in America. Okay? And the feminists are all in an uproar. The secular liberal atheists and the cultists, those little weirdos, they're all up in a tizzy fit. Alright? At the threat of them not being allowed to do human sacrifice and have to have accountability, responsibility in their lives. They can't have just abortion on demand. The women who've had like 4 abortions, they're probably waiting for their 5th, knowing them. So, what I find interesting about them threatening civil war, they're talking about it, is on the left-wing side, they're the ones who try to disarm people to where they can have gun rights. They're the party that tries to take away our ability to defend ourselves in self-preservation. And on the right, the conservative religious right, they own more guns and they know how to use them. They know the proper education. They have permits. They know what kind of bullets to use. They know the names of different weapons. They're way more comfortable. And also, if you think about it further, how many religious conservatives in America own land? They have a way of self-subsistence. Chickens, turkeys, they know how to fish, they know how to hunt. The left wing has demonized hunting. They're very plant-based, soy milk, oat milk, cashew milk, whatever. So they are not able to hunt for themselves. And when this supply chain, or even fish, when the supply chains go down from a civil war, and they can no longer watch Netflix, DoorDash, and tweet, their tone is going to change real quick. And they'll see what it's like when a nation actually goes into a civil strife. It's not going to be like in the movies. It's not going to be so peachy. It's going to be pretty brutal, right? And the conservative Christians, especially, they're the ones who are the preppers, where they have canned food. They know how to do all kinds of stuff. Now, there are some liberals who go camping and stuff, and some of them will survive. But the city types that I'm talking about, who are hyper-sheltered and don't suffer and are used to whining on Twitter with their lattes and their scarves, are going to not understand what raw violence looks like. And further, there are more masculine men on the religious conservative right because they fear God. They fear their maker. And they're not demonized for being men. And there are more military members who are ex-military who are on the religious conservative side. Okay? And on the left-wing side, once those leftists can't get their hormone blockers, their estrogen, or their testosterone supplements, if they're changing their biological chemistry, if they can't get those medications, right? And if some of them are on antidepressants, they're on all these different medical stuff, right? These treatments, they're going to suffer even more, right? And if you think about it, women on the religious side have more children, and they are fighting for the lives of their children in a civil war, and they're going to change. Whereas one could argue the abortionist, occultic, weirdo, secular atheists, they won't have the same fervor of self-preservation only for themselves, nor will they have a network that will help feed them. Family and networking in times of civil war comes to be very important. And so I find these threats they're making, these insurrectionist threats, which is quite ironic because anytime a conservative, a religious conservative says they want to protest, they want to do something, which they rarely do, but when they do, they call it a super spreader event. They make all these threats of, these are domestic terrorists, they should be jailed for insurrection, and Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and YouTube will censor them, ban them. But if you notice, these blue check marks on Twitter, on Instagram, and all them, they're calling for things that you're just like, do these people understand what it means when a nation goes into civil war? And let's go even deeper. If you're gonna fight for the right to execute babies to do human sacrifice, and the other side is fighting for you to be more responsible, to be more accountable, to have mercy on the cute little babies, and to stop sleeping with men who don't want you and to close your legs, and for men to make better decisions with the women they sleep with, which side do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gonna bless? And the side that fights for the living and fights with a cause, a mission that is sanctioned to be halal by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that side is going to be the winning side. So with these occultists, with these secular atheists, they're not going to have any religious fervor, nor will they have the same weapons capability, nor will they have the same family networks, nor do they know how to survive with hunting and fishing and survivalist prepper stuff. They have a very different existence that I don't think they know what they're talking about. If you're going to pick up a weapon as a feminist and try to hurt a woman who is defending babies, and you think you're on the right side of history because you've been brainwashed by the media to hate, an innocent baby, you're an evil person. Look up what a little cute baby looks like at 13 weeks. There are even reports that when you're on your second or third child, you can feel your baby kick at 13, 14, 15, 16 weeks. When it's your first baby, it's usually 21, 22, right? But when you have more children, your body adapts. And you can feel the baby kick. And it has its little heartbeat. At 13 weeks, it has its little identical toes. Like, they're identified. They're not webbed anymore. Like, they're separate. They have fingers. It's wiggling the little baby. A little tiny heartbeat. And feminists will say, that's not a human. That's a parasite, they'll say. And they always use, when I was around feminists, and I used to think abortion wasn't a big deal till I saw this film called The Silent Scream. I saw images of what the human remains look like in the bucket, how cold and calculated it is. You see these interviews with honest abortionists who say, it gives them mental problems. They also feel like they have a problem when it comes to Judgment Day. You get some abortionists who have some guilt inside. And then you have women who regretted having an abortion. There's a whole side to it. It's not just those who glorify it as something powerful, right? And also I saw leaked videos of people in the processing lab playing with the body parts. It was such an evil video. Whenever you come across those kind of underground videos, it changes you. And you see it and you're like, they're playing with the kids' private parts, holding the head at the camera. That's a human. And they don't want you to tell the mothers who are about to have an abortion what can happen to that little baby's remains after they're done. And it is very, very sad. They don't want you to show the images of what it looks like. And one of the most powerful scenes in the film, The Silent Scream, was when they put the tool inside the woman's womb, the baby frantically was moving away from it. And this is shocking because feminists say babies don't feel pain. They don't have any awareness. They're nothing. They're just cells. And when you see the baby wiggle from it, it clearly is aware that something is inside the mama's womb. And that, if you have a soul, if you fear God, if you don't love the devil, and you believe in the last day, you feel like that little one knew. And when they pinched the baby with the clamps, it went, its little mouth open. Now, if you've ever been pregnant, you go to an ultrasound, some of the technology you can see when the baby opens its mouth, when it closes, It's so cool when they wiggle, you know? When I used to drink cold water when I was pregnant with my little one, she would wiggle and you'd feel your baby move inside, and if you lay on the wrong side, the baby moves. It's amazing. Fertility is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you can only get pregnant once a month. So these women who've had 3 or 4 abortions, they've had plenty of time to close their legs, get on birth control. There's so many forms of birth control now, and use a male condom, and he can pull out, and they can just stop sleeping with loser guys. This is like, there's so many means now that if you use abortion as a form of birth control, which many of them do and they deny it, you'll see like, wow, come on. And for the feminist hijabis are going to explode. It says don't kill your children out of poverty in the Quran. And the more excuses you make to execute babies, the more you're channeling and manifesting a very dark arts energy. Okay? Because those scientists make money off the body parts. They don't just get put in the ground and, respectfully buried. They get utilized. And that's pretty cold and calculated. And the fact that they don't tell people that, or you have to go search for that knowledge, is pretty dark to me. And it's even more dark that an abortionist can go to work and take lives every day and not feel anything. If that to me is like, what are we putting into that person? And they make money off of it. They get cheddar. They get vacations. They get all that. We're facilitating them going into hellfire by having such facilities. This is why we have to talk about not hookup culture, but the sexual revolution. The liberated woman of the modern progressive left thinks that the more men you sleep with, the higher body count. This is glorious, and this is actually the recklessness that leads to abortion, and how they create a sophisticated, weaponized propaganda warfare attack upon motherhood to make it seem like it's a stumbling block in the way of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They look at children as something that gets in the way of college. They care more about a diploma than a human life. They care more about their own selfish desires than being selfless for an innocent baby who will love them and adore them for many years. They rather execute that child and instead continue sleeping with men who are going to forget about them and maybe joke about them on WhatsApp. Making memes about them and whatnot. So it is just so strange that the leftists would play with the idea that they would want to go to civil war in America because they can no longer commit, atrocities. That is intense. And to see men out there marching with the women, they're basically marching for the right to not be responsible, to not have to man up and take care of the adorable baby that you put into the woman. You fertilized her. You knew how babies were made. It's 2022. If you can't be safe, help the child. And also, because less children, if this goes through, will be aborted, you're going to expect a lot of evil women to abandon their babies. Their hearts are so hard and they're so evil. They will abandon their children, and human traffickers will snatch those kids up. So for all of us Muslims out there, if you are able, I would say adopt. And we need more Islamic organizations running proper orphanages. It is something that we're going to need. It is something that we have to be ready for, because these feminists are going to get revenge on us. And one way they're going to get revenge is by hurting the children in front of us. So this means abandoning them in the most absurd places to try to frighten people into going back for abortion. They will do any sick thing to frighten, scare, manipulate, and brainwash people into not feeling sorry for executed babies. If I were you, go on a research. Google might hide it because they're leftists. You might have to use DuckDuckGo or a different browser. Switch your VPN. You can get better, honest search results. So you can look at the tools they use, how they go about, dismembering the baby and vacuuming it out of the mother. And then look at the baby's development and ask yourself, is this right? And don't always believe these women when they say it's all about rape victims. A lot of the times, it's because they don't want to be inconvenienced. And I'll tell a feminist that to her face. To her face. And when they say when it's the life of the mother, that is such a small percentage point. But at this point, in the future, you have abortionists who, you don't know corruption, man. They may fudge the numbers so they can make money. You think they want to lose money, these abortionists? No, they want to go on vacation. They want to make that car payment. They want that second vacation house. They want the money. To them, they don't have a heart. They don't have a soul, almost. They will lie and fudge the numbers and fudge the data so that they can use any excuse to keep doing what they love to do. They love to work with death. So they're going to make sure they secure their funding and their finances. And believe me, they're going to practice everything. They're going to use sob stories. They're going to make sure you never feel bad for the child. And you never get angry at the woman for being reckless. And that you don't counsel her to become a better woman. Right? And that you give her dawah. No. They want the money. They want the baby corpse. And they want broken, wicked, angry, bitter, mentally fractured women who, after they've had 6 abortions, and I've met quite a few in California, where they go on pills, they become mentally weird, Meeting a woman who's had 6 abortions versus a woman who's had 6 children and never had an abortion, there's a difference. Big difference. If you see somebody who executes babies for a living via abortion versus an older woman who delivers babies in a rural village, the energy of those two people is going to be quite different. And that is a sign for a people who reason. The side that fights for the innocent. The side that fights against the death cult, against human sacrifice, and who actually looks at what is the action, what is occurring. This is the honest route that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would bless. It is dark what they want to do, but we have to have a strong united force, intellectually, against the feminist, secular, liberal agenda. Because to them, fighting for a baby is evil. This is why they wear coat hanger necklaces. They have abortion cakes. They wear shirts that say I had an abortion. They do the hashtags of it. They make TikTok videos where they're in the abortion clinic, pointing the camera at their stomach. They're very wicked. They don't fear any punishment. It's because the atheist had told them there is only this life. And with that sick philosophy, you see people who no longer recognize good and evil and honor and dignity and virtue. And sadly, you only see the Christians really putting up a fight. And they're losing. Right? So we as Muslims must come together and be bold, resolute, and speak elegantly and lovingly about children. And that's what I've started to do. And sure, I've seen some pretty wicked feminist hijabis say, oh, you idealize motherhood, while they glorify academia. It is quite strange. I didn't know that I would ever see Muslim women, being hard on stay-at-home moms, but what do you expect with the liberal agenda getting everywhere? But if you are a mom You can start a blog. You can have an anonymous account on Facebook. I don't know. However you want to do it. However your husband lets you do it. Help. Because they're going to come. They're going to get revenge. And we have to have solutions ready. We have to help defend the babies. We have to help young women not make mistakes and to be wiser with their bodies. And to tell the men to be careful, right? And to want to have children and to want to have a wife. And we have to do a lot of work. It's going to take all of us. We can't stand behind one content creator or talk about it once in a while and then, wash our hands of it. Because this consciousness is encroaching upon all of us. So let's all participate in combating this dark arts agenda and be prepared for whatever war propaganda and manipulation and censorship that the death-loving feminists throw at us, because they work, a lot of them, in big tech. They themselves having had many abortions and have an alcohol problem and a bunch of cats. So think about what I said and let us know if you have any solutions as well.